Emerging developer Bluebird has lodged a development application for a new biophilic residential project in the Brisbane riverfront suburb of Highgate Hill. Developed under a partnership between Bluebird and the long-term local landowners, the development has been described as like nothing else in southeast Queensland. Joining us to explain the project, the partnership model and more is Bluebird co-founder and partner Riye Arai-Coupe. Thanks for joining us on The Urban Developer.
Hi Adam, how you going?
Very well, very well.
Yeah.
Now let's start with this project. Can you describe the proposal?
It's not nothing that no one has seen before. It's a boutique residential development on the riverfront in the inner west suburbs of Brisbane. But what we are doing differently is a few things in terms of sustainability, biophilic design, as you've mentioned, and also formally partnering up with the local landowners and providing this as a development service through Bluebird.
So just tell us about this partnership model first. We'll get into the project later. The site was acquired under a pretty unique arrangement between the landowners and Bluebird. How does the model work?
So the model is the landowners tip in the land, typically is the general structure, and then Bluebird provides the development services. So we essentially work as the developer on behalf of the landowner, and through the deal we have partnered up to deliver the project together. So in essence, it is very much a joint venture scenario. In some scenarios, it might end up becoming a development management agreement, depending on the risk appetite of the landowner. But yeah, so essentially it's taking the development management services that we have provided as a Bluebird, as a service for our Bluebird business in the past, and formalising it as a development partner.
And so I'm assuming you establish a special purpose vehicle or a new entity, and then the landowners and Bluebird become shareholders in that entity. Is that right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So post development approval, we firm up the revaluation of the site, and the site enters into a special purpose vehicle, and then we develop the project. In the last 12 months in particular, Bluebird has been really focusing on the acquisition front. Through COVID, the consulting side of our business started to die down, as I think it did with everyone else whilst we went through a bit of a quiet period. So we changed tact for our business and really focused on those acquisition opportunities. And what we were finding was the landowners were coming to us and saying they didn't necessarily want to sell the site, they just wanted to deliver them. But given the lack of experience or the complexity of the project, they weren't comfortable in moving that forward. So that's where we've stepped in and we said, well, you know, we can partner up with you. And we're really transparent in all of the dealings of the process. So it really is a true partnership.
So let's go through the responsibilities. How are they shared? Obviously, Bluebird would be responsible for the development, but what other responsibilities are shared?
So in this scenario, the funding will also be shared. So depending on the project and the structure of it, Bluebird will also provide equity. Typically, the landowner provides just the land that they own, and depending on the debt levels of their site, may have to contribute marginally more equity. It also depends on the uplift of the value of post-DA as well. So Bluebird will essentially take it from a raw property to design, DA. We do the sales and marketing, we do the construction tendering and the construction management right through to completion of the project as well. So it really is a total end-to-end scenario that we can provide. There's other projects that we're talking about at the moment with other landowners in that they would like to be really heavily involved in that upfront vision and design, but don't understand the planning context. So we essentially take it from that point forward and deliver it as a typical DM would.
And just take us through how risks and returns are then apportioned. Who wears the risk through the life of the project? How is that shared? And then how are any kind of returns shared up?
Again, it just depends on the project, because every single site, as you know, is different. It depends on the complexity of the site, probably first and foremost. So if a site requires high level of thinking and strategy and experience around, say here in Brisbane, an impact accessible development application, for example, and you need to have, you know, some kind of well-traversed smarts embedded into the project, then that will dictate a large portion of what that return is, on the basis that, you know, if there wasn't someone like us to be able to unlock that opportunity, then it wouldn't be practical or possible. Also comes down to the value of the land, the equity that the owners have in the land, and also just the level of risk that they want to take on. So in the scenario, you typically have a joint venture where the risk is largely shared between the parties of that joint venture, whereas under a development management agreement, it's borne by largely the developer. In this scenario, that would be us. So therefore, the returns would be skewed towards us as opposed to the landowner. So it really comes down to the site. A good starting point might be 50-50, 50% equity contribution, 50% returns. And then depending on all of the above, then that's how the returns are generated.
So let's talk about the project again now. So biophilic and sustainable is the point of difference. How many dwellings have you got?
So there's 8 units. It's 4 levels of apartments, 3 bedroom, 2 living. They are 2 per floor. We've designed them really very much with this biophilic design, which was a new term that I came across very early in the visioning piece, in where we are really leveraging on the natural light and the ventilation and the connection to nature and greenery through the space. So if anyone has the opportunity to actually pull out the plans, you'll see that almost 4/5 of the way through the apartment, they're long apartments that you can actually sit almost towards the back of the apartment and actually open up the entire space right from the bedrooms to the rear, through the second living, through the bathrooms, through the bedrooms, and essentially see right out to the river. So it's about these transient spaces. Every single balcony has greenery so that any space that you're within the apartment, you have that connection regardless of whether you're on the top floor or on the ground level. We've got every single plant within the development. We're aiming for edible species. So we're really leveraging on that habitat and natural ecosystems. And we're right adjacent to a community garden as well. So it's about the connectivity to the surrounds and the local community as well. So it's taking what I guess is coined as the subtropical design and the buildings that breathe here in Brisbane to the next level. And then embedded through all of that is genuine principles of sustainability throughout. So that's probably the biggest focus for us. In terms of the community, we've designed the building so that rather than have the isolated fire stairs, for example, we've worked with the engineers to open that up so you've got that bump-in factor right from the very beginning within the development. And then in terms of the wider community, we're really big advocates in community engagement and really early community engagement. So we've been out speaking with the locals and the surrounds for more than 6 months in the lead up to now, and really trying to ensure that we're capturing any of their concerns or recommendations in terms of the building and how we can soften the integration of our building into this community. So I think in terms of the way that a traditional development is done, it's very, here is our building, it's very luxury, it's very beautiful, but often you find that they're quite isolated from the communities that they are built within. So we're making sure that we're bringing that right in up front and embedding it throughout.
And so who are you targeting? What sort of price points are you seeking to achieve?
Price points haven't yet been determined, subject to DA, but I mean, they're house alternatives. So they are in the millions along the riverfront there, and particularly in Highgate Hill and West End. They are targeting household downsizers and family households. They're big. We're talking about 220 square metre plus 3-bedroom units. So they are true house alternatives.
And just finally, what's the timing on delivery? When and I guess how are you delivering it?
So we hope that we'll be out of council, touch wood, maybe by the end of the year, early next year. It is an impact assessable development application. And then we'll be straight into market. I mean, the great thing about the community engagement so far has been that most people have actually put their name up, they've put their hand up for one of the apartments. And we anticipate that they're all going to largely come from the local market anyway. There is nothing really of this nature on offer here in Brisbane.
Again, what's next for Bluebird?
Next, obviously a lot more joint ventures with the landowners. So it's something that we're really advocating now and as a real alternative for property owners. And I guess maybe something that we've been toying with in the kind of more distant future is probably something around crowdfunding or syndication of these development partnerships as a natural progression. But It's quite a while away yet.
We'll have to jump on another briefing when you've got your head around that one. That sounds really interesting. Riye, thanks very much for your time. All the best with it.
Yeah, thanks, Adam. Thank you.